This was started by our CEO who, working on a PhD project and wanted to do something with data, etc. Couldn't figure out how to do what he needed to do. So he wrote a program essentially to help put it all together and realized that getting this product to market was probably going to be more profitable than his PhD. And the guy's, he's a freaking genius. He's extremely smart and he's the CEO of the company. He can still open up the hood and go and do stuff.
In this episode, I'm talking to Doug Kimball, CMO of OntoText's. The company provides database tech to help companies aggregate and analyze their data using knowledge graphs. Some of their clients include Fujitsu, BBC, and the Financial Times. We'll talk about their top 5 marketing channels, how much they spend in each one of these channels, and how they're averaging 300 to 400 leads per month with their inbound marketing efforts. We'll also try to figure out things like their revenue, their CAC, cost per acquisition, and LTV, lifetime value of a customer, and details of their past fundraising efforts. And if you can't answer a question, we both have to take a shot of hot sauce. Wish me luck, Martians. Hope you enjoy this one.
Hello, Martians. Welcome back to another episode of Marketing on Mars. Today we got Doug Kimball. He's currently the CMO of a company called OntoText's, which basically provides database tech to connect data in the form of a knowledge graph. And if you're like me, you might have no idea what a knowledge graph is, but no worries. Doug is going to come and he's going to save the day. He's going to tell us everything about his company and how they grew, how they raised a bunch of money, which we might, we'll talk about all the details behind it. But first, Doug, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's nice to be on Mars. It's a different kind of location. I feel weightless. It's nice. No, seriously, I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
Yeah. One thing we cannot do, Mars, is jiu-jitsu, which I believe you did some jiu-jitsu growing up, right?
I've done a few. I've done jiu-jitsu almost the last probably 16 years now. Got my black belt about 2 years ago. Continue to teach the last 7 or 8 years, and I love it. Trying to do it on Mars would be very difficult. That's for sure. But it's a passion and a hobby.
So do you watch UFC, like the Ultimate Fighter Champion? Is that something?
Many people actually steered me away from it for a while because I did stand-up martial arts for about 25 years. I was decent standing up, and then I saw this ground stuff. I'm like, I'm not sure if I can do that. And so I was scared. I finally got into it. But yeah, I've watched a lot of UFC in my time. I'm actually going to a live jiu-jitsu event in 2 days here in Oklahoma City.
Oh, wow. Yeah. And we can nerd out about it because I'm also a UFC fan. Do you also watch the One Championships?
Yeah. Yep. And
yeah. You like that one better?
I don't know. It's different type of competition, different type of rules, different type of approach to things. But if you've heard of the Who's Number One, that's the event that I'm going to go to. This is actually Wednesday or Thursday. I've lost track. Thursday. But it's not mixed martial arts. It's just jiu-jitsu. But yeah, I love watching all of it. It's just fun when you get a good match going back and forth, especially when it's like a good back and forth, not just a one-sided beatdown. Those get kind of boring.
Yeah. Well, if we ever did a Marketing on Mars Jiu-Jitsu Championship, I think you might come up. You might come first. My money's on you. Well, thanks for coming on the show. Before we begin, there's a little bit of a tradition that I told you. We always start off the show with a shot of hot sauce.
Yes.
And throughout the show, we're gonna dive into OntoText's. We're gonna try to figure out how you guys grew, and I'll ask you a bunch of questions. And at any point you cannot answer a question, lights will go off. I think the lights are off kind of in the background there a little bit-ish. Yeah. You can kind of see it. And that means we're taking another shot of hot sauce. So before we begin, what weapon of choice have you brought on the show today?
I reluctantly grabbed the only thing I have in my fridge, a Scotch bonnet pepper hot sauce.
Oh.
If I have more than probably 5 raw ingredients, I may just be running out of here screaming.
Or you might start doing some like groundwork, like roll over to the washroom. Yeah. I ran out of my last hot sauce. I only have Carolina Reaper. I hope you can answer everything, Doug. Yeah. Please answer everything. Yeah. It will be good or not good.
Yeah.
All right, let's start off with a little dab.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start really light because oh god. Maybe I didn't do it light.
Bottoms up.
I think that's enough.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think I should have had milk candy instead of a glass of soda. Yeah.
I might have to grab some soda in a little bit, but
Yeah, I hear you.
all right. Before we begin, I'm going to stop talking. Explain in a few sentences what exactly OntoText does.
Sure.
What problem are you guys solving, and how do you guys make money?
Yeah, that's always a good question. I think it's the easiest answer sometimes is to first describe what it is that we do. And if any of the viewers have used a small tool called Google, or if they've taken a ride on Uber, if they've used IMDb to look up movie stuff, what you're doing behind the scenes is called a knowledge graph. So a knowledge graph is not a relational database. It's more of it's a graph database. And so graph databases work the way our brains work. If I asked you, hey, tell me where, Ontario is. Well, there's Ontario, and you immediately know Ontario as Canada. There's also the Ontario airport in California. So you make these connections like that automatically because you can apply the context from your brain. That's how a knowledge graph basically brings together different kinds of information, whether it's structured data, unstructured data like text or video or things like that. It brings it all together. And because of the system we use, it can have reasoning. So now you go through, you put your knowledge on top of your knowledge graph, and it can actually make connections between data. Like I said, if you use the Ontario example, you might think Ontario airport. You might think Ontario this, that. You create those connections in your head, but a knowledge graph can do much the same because of the way it builds those connections between data points. So what it's used for, there's a whole bunch of use cases. I mean, it truly is, I guess, company agnostic. I mean, knowledge graphs can be used for recommender engines. They can be used for search bots. If you've been looking into generative AI or large language models or chat GPT, AI, ML, all of those things should be powered by a knowledge graph because it has all those data points underneath it and connects that. And so you can train your AI tools to actually be really useful. We do it for target discovery for like life sciences companies. We do it for fraud detection, for financial services. There's a ton of use cases. But I'm going to pause and hopefully now that you got your breath back after a bit of hot sauce there.
I still can't talk. I was hoping you'd be talking for another 10 minutes, to be honest. That is so spicy. Oh my God. This is Rude Boy from Seattle. I got it on a trip to Seattle. It's Carolina Reaper and Scotch Bennett.
Ooh.
So it has some of your stuff.
Yeah.
But then it's mostly Carolina Reaper.
Yeah, I'm still feeling
this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of use cases.
Yeah.
Industry agnostic. Give us a sense of what kind of companies you work for. So who would be some of the larger clients or partners that you
the BBC, the British Broadcasting Company, been our customer for, I want to say it's either 12 or 13 years. They've been around using us for quite a long time. Companies like Children's Hospital in Chicago, JP Morgan, places like that, UBS, a couple I can't name names on, but a major German manufacturer of automobiles. A wide variety of customers. So what they use us for is so different among what they do as well. I mean, it's not a case of everybody uses this for the same kind of a thing. Knowledge management is a huge opportunity with these graphs because when you imagine trying to search for information, if you use Google, just as an easy example, imagine taking that on steroids and being able to find it not just in one place, but connected everywhere, and then applying context on top of that so it becomes even smarter. I've been in data management for a few years. This is taking it to a whole other level. Sorry, go ahead.
So is it kind of like building your own internal Google where you can search things up internally, or is it more than that?
It is, and it can be much more than that as well. Because you imagine having multiple internal Googles. When you look at what a company tries to do with their own data, it's great as long as they know where all their data is, they can find it, they can access it, and they can share it, and have the same language. But you have a merger and acquisition, or if you're doing things like with IoT. So you get different sensors and devices that need to be connected from manufacturers. Well, they're all using different languages, but if you can bring that together and have, and what they call an ontology, which is a layer of knowledge on top of that, now you can actually share information and not have a bunch of people running around. It's like the Tower of Babel. You got 100 people speaking 100 different languages. You can't really communicate. But if you can get information to be properly explained and shared and found, now you're getting more value for the data that you have. I mean, one of the biggest terms I use a lot is making data reusable, because it's great that you can run a report to get this information, but if I can only do it for that particular project, not so useful. But if I can now make that data available to that person, that system, that device, that person who wants to run analytics, now you got more data all that data we collected being more valuable, being used in more places.
So you guys have been around for some time now.
Yeah.
And you're working with some big companies. I'm scared to ask this next question, but how much are you guys making in terms of revenue? Give us a sense of how large your company is at, even like a range.
Yeah, I can say both of our tongues. It's about 10 million ARR. So we made our number last year, which was nice for breaking year. I think we're well on our way for this number this year, but we're about between 10 to 11 million ARR. So not bad. As far as that's euros versus dollars.
Oh, that's 11 million euros.
Yeah.
Okay, so that would be roughly 13 million USD ish.
My conversion's about right. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
This time next week I'll be in London. I better get my conversion right.
Yeah. And you guys did this all without raising anything, or did you guys raise any money?
No raising. It all. So just the quick history. I mean, this was started by our CEO, who the short version is he was working on a PhD project and wanted to do something with data, et cetera. Couldn't figure out how to do what he needed to do. So he wrote a program essentially to help put it all together, and realized that getting this product to market was probably going to be more profitable than his PhD. And the guy's, he's a freaking genius. He's extremely smart, and he's the CEO of the company. And, he can still open up the hood and go and do stuff. But that's how it came about.
I have a couple of VC friends that invest just in PhD projects. So, I mean, would love to hear more about your this project and dive into a little bit more. And maybe we'll connect after the podcast.
What's interesting is about $1 million or so ish of our revenue comes from academic projects. So a lot of it comes from clients. The larger portion comes from clients who pay us money to do things for them. But a lot of it, a small portion comes from academic research projects. So this is very much used by academics a lot of times too. So it's kind of neat that we make money just because people want to be smarter.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, let's dive in a little bit about marketing. As a CMO, you own the budget. So let's dive into a little bit where you guys spend money on, what works right now for you guys. So about $13 million USD in revenue.
Yeah.
How much of that is put into marketing per year? Do you have a annual or monthly marketing budget?
I got annual about 1.1. So they gave me a pretty substantial budget for the year, which was awesome. I mean, we almost doubled the budget from the previous year. So that made me feel good coming on board for that.
Yeah. For sure. I mean, and for you, you've been at OntoText's not too long. It's only been
November. So it's all been 7 months and some change. And there's been we've done a lot in just the last 6 to 7 months. I mean, I got most of my team is based in Bulgaria. So the company is a Bulgarian owned and developed company. They're based company, excuse me. But ironically, they have no clients in Bulgaria. They have a ton of clients in Europe. They have a ton of clients in the United States. We've got a couple in Asia Pacific, a couple in Australia. But it truly a global company, but it's based in Bulgaria. So I've got 6 team marketing people based in Bulgaria. I'll have to say 1.5 here in the States because I've got a person who's kind of in a contract situation. But 8 months ago there was nobody. 9 months ago there was nobody in the States working for OntoText's. So we've
Wow.
added a lot of people, a lot of effort, a lot of emphasis to build out the North American team, and seeing a lot of really good results for it.
Wow. So $1.1 million annually is your marketing budget.
Yep.
Give us a breakdown. Where are you spending your money right now?
No
Is it
surprise.
SEO, PPC, events, whatever? Like, give us a breakdown.
No surprise. Events accommodates or takes up maybe almost half of it. I'm a big fan of events. When events are done right, I think they can be extremely powerful for not just lead generation, which is obviously the key focus, but awareness. And OntoText, it's a smaller company. We're not as well known as people who have 10 times the size. If you know knowledge graphs and graph databases, you're likely to know OntoText. But I don't want to talk to what I call the echo chamber. I want to talk to people who don't know us, who are in the enterprise world, who want to think bigger. So to me, events done right are awareness, brand awareness, marketing, brand generation, but it should be lead generation. And I'm pushing a lot towards thought leadership. Like I spoke at the Gartner conference in Orlando a couple of months ago. I'll be in the conference in London shortly and doing a talk. And it's not that I'm smart, but it's just sharing thought leadership to make people go, oh, that's cool, OntoText. So that's how I look at events. The rest of it broken down, so events being a lot, I'd say close to half of it. Digital marketing is probably about, a fifth of the remaining part of the budget, because digital marketing is such an important part. We've got a great marketing director who he lives Google Analytics, and the guy is a whiz at digging into it and doing the analytics and tweaking things. He loves that, the website and LinkedIn and things like that. Well, that's a big piece of it. Content marketing. Again, a huge fan of content marketing because people want to learn. You need to educate them. As well as I do, the buyer's journey is 7, 8, 10, 12 pieces of touch during the whole process, and the right content can definitely help them make a difference. So probably another my fraction is going to be all off when I'm done with this, so I'm gonna have to make some of the numbers up a bit. But maybe an eighth of the overall budget goes against content. And then you got different pieces from there, everything from like I initiated a win-loss program because I've used a win-loss providers in my last 3 jobs actually. And I find those to be extremely powerful. So I did a spend on that because me gather that kind of insights is extremely important.
You got events. That's about 50%. You got digital marketing. That's about
maybe 10%.
20%.
Yeah, 10%. Like closer to 20%. Yeah.
Yeah, and then content marketing is about 15%.
I can't tell me. Content marketing is probably around 10-ish.
10.
We're about
10. Okay.
We got contracts that we work with.
Yeah, and then so you got the remaining 20%. Where do you think that's going?
Yeah, it goes across a variety of things. Everything from, obviously like things like print media, things we do around that. I've got a press agency that I'm working with. It's a bit of a spend there.
Okay.
Merchandise, it kind of trickles off into some of the smaller things like merchandise. And the press agency is one who I think so far they've been very happy with. They've been doing a great job getting us, a lot of exposure. And then, just miscellaneous things from there, everything from, like I said, I mentioned the win-loss program. We did a kind of an incentive mailing thing where, you may have gotten these before, hey, if you take my poll, take my call, I'll give you a $10 gift certificate to Starbucks or a $20 card to Starbucks. I bought into that, just thought I'd try it, and I get a lot of people reaching out for solicitations. The style in which they used it it caught my attention and it worked. So I'm like, well, let's try this. We've had some decent engagement, but I think we're still feeling our way through how to best use it. But yeah.
Okay, cool. So let's dive into a couple of these channels. It sounds like events is what's driving majority of your revenue and your growth. And then digital and content, that's like another 30%. So these are your 1 and 2 largest channels. Let's talk about events first.
Yeah.
Let's talk about events, number
ABM,
1.
Sorry. I should have mentioned ABM, Charlie. You also got a piece of ABM in there too. Sorry.
Oh, ABM.
Yeah.
So how would this percentage,
Not really
events is number 1?
Events number 1. I'd say ABM is probably number 3 in that. So digital marketing and ABM, you can kind of lump those sometimes, not necessarily, but
Okay.
you can lump because it's channel outreach.
Yeah.
So ABM more
Okay.
than content though. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. So I'll just throw that in there.
Yeah.
Let's start with events.
Yeah.
What is your event strategy? What do you guys? Where does all? So 50% of your budget. That's like almost 500K or more per year. Yeah. Where does it go towards? Like, what's your strategy with
I
events?
think the largest bulk of it goes to the analyst type events, which unfortunately are quite expensive to go to. So my strategy when I look at events, like I said, it's awareness and lead generation. It's trying to be where the most type of buyers that we want to talk to and the people we want to influence are going to be. And especially in the data space, I mean, there's data events popping up left and right. So it's hard. It's a case of, if I had unlimited budget, we'd be at an event every week, which I don't want to do because I'd go crazy. But truly it's around, who are the people we want to talk to, the personas we want to engage with. You get your data, your CDO types, and your architect types. But also, I'm increasingly pushing towards business leaders, the C levels, the CDOs who need to be able to explain to the CEO or the procurement people, here's why we need to spend on this data project. And they don't always care as much about the techie stuff as they do the business why. So looking at those from an audience standpoint, and then that's the big picture. But then you have some vertical events. There's financial services events, life sciences events. I'm pushing us to get into retail and consumer packaged good events. So going to events where we have a very clear use case and value proposition to say, people like you, we've done this, and this. And so went to an event about a month ago in Chicago that was just outstanding from a lead generation standpoint. We had people, even as a small booth without much advertising, in a huge hall in Chicago coming over to see this. There was 40,000 people, and we had people coming down and tracking us down in this massive event. So that was pretty cool. So yeah, targeted from a vertical standpoint, then sometimes targeted by I'll just call it specific. There was a knowledge graph conference last week, and of course it's all about knowledge graph. So we went specifically to that. We had a couple of talks. So the big pictures, the analyst type ones, the focus ones, and the verticals, and then specifically in our space, whether it's semantic technology or knowledge graphs or things like that, focusing on that.
Yeah. Wow. That's interesting. I'll be honest, we get a lot of CMOs on our show and CEOs on our show, and I don't know the exact number, but probably 80 or 90% are saying that big events are not working for them because it's hard to stand out from the noise.
Right.
Sponsorships are expensive. Sales cycles are so long, so you're not really seeing any return. Money is tight right now, so people are saying smaller events and more niche events are better than large events. But you guys are finding success with large events.
Let's define large events. So there's 2 ways you can define a large event. One is large as in dollar. One is large as in physical size.
Physical size.
Yeah.
Like when you get to the 2,000. When you get to the 2,000 plus attendees, it's hard to stand out from the noise.
Right.
And you're talking about 40,000. That's like ultra. That's
this
ultra
place
large.
Is McCormick Center in Chicago. If you the listeners have been there, they know how huge it could be. I mean, I've been there several times for previous events, and it was a low spend. It was a very low spend for what we did. I mean, we had a small little bitty booth. We were got this small area, and I was blown away. And by comparison, we'd gone to the Gartner conference, the data analytics conference, which is a big conference. It was 6,000 people, and we got leads and we had conversations, but they were okay. And to your point, this is where you're right, and your previous audiences have not been inaccurate. It is a challenge, and to me, events should be a good opportunity if we do everything right. Now, that means we might do everything right though, and people never call you back. It's like,
yeah.
And so I'm having this justification to my CEO about this, and here was helping is just to give a quick example. We went to a big conference in August last year before I was on board. And I think there were 6 good leads that came in, they said, and then they went dead. They went quiet. And so the CEO was like, this is terrible, which I understand. But all of a sudden in January, now the new year started, we get this call from one of our clients. They're actually based in Canada. My boss is on his way to Canada right now. And it could be a huge opportunity, like in the $300,000 to $400,000 range if all continues to go well and things. So we've gone from being dead quiet and we're like, wow, this conference sucked, to we may get a very major sale with some additional branches over the next several months. So you never know. The cycles can be terrible.
Wow. And how much did you guys spend on that event? Just for perspective.
45, I think it was.
45,000?
Yeah.
4,500.
45,000.
45,000. Okay. So you guys spent 45,000. And what was your strategy going in? Like, what, you guys had a booth? Did you guys do anything unique there to stand out? And that's the reason why everyone flocked over, or it was just like the typical have a booth?
It was before I was here. So they was in my boss, the chief commercial officer, he'd been on board maybe 2 weeks. So it was truly a case of the CEO and the CTO over there. They carried the conversations, but we didn't do anything that stood out. So when we went to the event, the same event this year in Florida, I did a talking event. So I made publicity around that. We did a ton of marketing before. I used LinkedIn. So my strategy again is you don't just show up, put up and throw up. You plan and you make noise about it beforehand. You reach out to your contacts, you're making noise. I reached out to potential partners before the event saying, hey, I'd love to meet with you. You got to beat the feet on the street before you get there, not just show up and pick up some pens and a couple of stuffed animals.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, cool. So events are working, which makes sense. If you get even just one customer out of, so it's about $40K per event. Let's say you go to 7 events in a year or over the course of 2 years or whatever, and you just get one customer, that will pay for all of the 7 events,
right?
And more, right? Yeah. So because your LTV, so your average contract value or is 300,000, you said?
No, our average contract value is probably closer to the 100 to 150. Okay. We do some smaller ones. We've done some bigger ones. I'd put us more. We don't charge enough in my mind. I'd put us more than 100 to 150. Okay.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, so events, and do you guys do a lot of some of the smaller, more niche type events? We just had Stack Overflow on the show, and they have paused a lot of their big events, like we were talking about, all the 40K, 50K. That's large. Rather, they made their own events, they curated their own list, and they brought people that they wanted to speak to in a room, and they made an event around that. That seems to be more popular nowadays. Better bang for your buck. You run the show. It might cost you 10K out of pocket or 20K out of pocket, but you get to throw an event that you want and the people that you want in the room, kind of thing. Did you guys do any of that stuff, or is that anything that's in the radar?
They did last year before I was on board. They did a virtual and an in-person one, and I think the results were mixed. I have done those. I've been part of those in my previous company, where we had some bespoke events, and they went pretty well. We talked about doing one in person this year. We decided to go virtual. I'm not a huge fan of virtual, although the spend is much better. So we'll see how it goes. But I do like, and I'm actually flying out tomorrow morning to go to Chicago to go to one of those events you talked about, where it's just a smaller event, very customized. We've got 8 guaranteed meetings. Well, actually, we have 13 now total. Guaranteed. It's just a small room, and it's a speed dating thing. And to be honest, going back to my event strategy, some of what I'm doing is a bit of a shotgun approach. Let's try the big ones. Let's try the small ones. Let's try the medium ones. Right. Because it's a newer space for me, and I think based on my data management experience, this has worked okay. Let's try it differently here. So some of it's very targeted, very narrow focus. Let's go after that. Sometimes it's like, well, we're gonna try that. We're gonna try that. Not randomly, obviously, but based on knowledge and experience in the industry and knowledge and experience of how these things should be done. Some of it's in that fashion.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Now, digital marketing. what is working for you guys? What trends are you seeing in digital marketing in your industry?
We're seeing a slowdown in April. Actually, it was weird. We're looking at the stats, and I mean, I love to talk to people on our competitors, see if the same thing. But we're looking at leads and the overall leads. And all of a sudden, like April, just like across the board, not tanked, but just dropped. It was really strange. And so my marketing director is digging into that to see, did the Google algorithms change? Is, what's going on behind this? Did we miss something, et cetera? There's theories, whether it's just market turn down in general. But what's working for us is, he does a very good job of looking at the search terms, analyzing that, looking at our competitors' search activity, what's working for them. He truly keeps his finger on the pulse of what's going on out there, and then try to tweak and maximize. We're talking to a third-party website personalization provider, just to kind of exploring what they might be able to do for us. I haven't made a decision I want to go that route or not. But also one of the things I brought because of my data management background is here's search terms we are not using that we should because they are hot. Even if a knowledge graph doesn't exactly, you don't buy this to do that, but without a knowledge graph, you can't do this. So that kind of a mindset, like, data mesh and data fabrics, all those hot terms out there, you can't do those properly without what we have. So we incorporated some new, meta terms into things to help catch more interest. That seems like it's driven some more traffic as well. And I think you've seen, you've liked a few of my posts. I'm a big proponent of LinkedIn. The one chest beating I will give is when I joined, we had about 4,800 LinkedIn followers. And I looked at our closest competitor, and they were just edging to 5,000. And I said, no, we're going to pass them. And we passed them. And we're growing our audience. We're growing our audience almost by 1,000 followers in the last 5 months. So, which,
wow.
I've seen people do much more than that. I've seen people do less than that. For me, I'm happy because I'm really driving this, this drumbeat of let's grow our followers, because I think that LinkedIn is a great way to do that. I mean, you and I met through LinkedIn, so you never know.
Yeah, no, that seems to be the trend as well. I mean, SEO is great. Right now, it's getting harder and harder and harder to outrank. And if you're the newer player in the scene, and especially with AI and all the content that's being pumped out, I think there's a huge thing right now, and I think Google is trying to combat it. And maybe that's, to your point, the algorithm changes. There might be something going on in the background. I've heard the same thing happen. I've heard a lot of my friends and people on the podcast talk about this as well, of SEO traffic either working in their favor. There's just been a lot of changes happening with even SEO, and so I think this trend has already been happening where Google SEO is moving more towards user experience, more than just the text and the meta, like the meta tags and all that stuff. That stuff, once you make a tweak, it used to help right away. You used to see like instant, in the next couple of months, you'd see changes right away. But I think it's moving more towards a lot of other factors around user experience, page speed. That stuff seems to be increasingly more important than just whatever you're talking about. But LinkedIn is like this massive opportunity, and everyone is jumping on it. You've seen it the last 2-3 months. Everybody is posting on LinkedIn. Every C-suite, every founder is now jumping on, and they're becoming thought leaders. Like that's what's happening. We can dive into LinkedIn a little bit more as well, but yeah, 100%. I think going down that route might be a good way to establish authority. That's all it is, right? It's about authority. It's about community. It's about starting conversations like this that you would have never had you just thrown an ad up there. And I'm not against ads. I think ads are great for some companies that have good branding. But so that's cool. And then what about
by the way, so Twitter what's your take on Twitter from a channel perspective?
Oh my God. First of all, I don't use Twitter, so I can't say from firsthand experience, but a lot of people that I'm talking to that are very active on LinkedIn as well, about half of them are still active on Twitter, so they're doing both. And I asked them the same question, and they're saying LinkedIn. I'm shifting all my efforts towards LinkedIn because it seems to be more, I don't even know what the word is. Seems to be less bot activity happening on LinkedIn versus Twitter. So a lot of the engagements and the conversations you're having are more real. That's what I'm hearing. And it seems, and overall, people on LinkedIn are nicer overall.
Yeah, true.
Than Twitter's just.
Yeah, tell you your opinions. The reason I asked that is that we did some analysis, and Twitter are like people going to our website from Twitter was a little higher, had a higher percentage of people going from a Twitter post to our website than it was for LinkedIn. Although if you came from LinkedIn to our website, you stayed longer, you had less page bounds, the dwell time was better. But at least that was an interesting. I just got back onto Twitter. I was off for a year. I would post once or twice a year. But as CMO, I'm like, well, I guess I probably should get out there and occasionally try to be smart and say something Twitter-ish. So I've gotten back on there. I have to remind I'm on LinkedIn every day. Twitter, I'm like, go do a wise.
Yeah, Twitter.
Yeah. So I'm just kind of curious.
I think LinkedIn is better for community right now.
I agree.
I don't know if you're seeing this. Like I've actually started building a lot of communities around LinkedIn, and I think you've seen some of my stuff. But yeah, I'm a huge LinkedIn lover right now. So yeah, ABM. Yeah, ABM. How's ABM doing for you? What's your strategy? How's that working for you?
It's funny. I've not been a fan of IBM, ABM.
Sorry, ABM. Sorry, IBM.
Sorry, IBM. No trademarks were harmed in the filming of this. I started working in my last role, my last company, and just never saw and never heard as much results as you might think you would get from it. That said, our strategy again, it's primarily, it's mainly industry focused, and targeting people. We use intent data to go after people. And we have campaigns by salespeople, campaigns by region. Targeted messaging, and I help tweaks in the messaging, the positioning for those. We've seen okay results. I haven't seen anything that makes me go, wow, this campaign was amazing. But again, you have to define what success is going to look like. And we've only really gotten into ABM in the last 6 to 7 months. So there's learnings and transition and getting the name out there and all those things. We've got new salespeople coming on board, so we're tweaking the changes there. So I don't want to fault ABM. I think it's just a learning process. But sometimes you see a campaign come back and you see, we spent X dollars, we got goose egg leads. Like, not very exciting. So I think the idea behind it, especially with the intent data, is pretty cool. And so to your point, going back to LinkedIn and the community, I'm not going up to a community of 100,000 people going, hey, buy my stuff. I'm talking to people who have expressed interest, or, I'm going after specific people with specific messages. That's more appealing. It's not mass. It's less than mass mail.
But maybe they're not mutually exclusive as well. Maybe you do them both at the same time. I'll give you a story. When I first started my podcast, not a lot of people said yes to the podcast. I think it was like my success rate, my call booked rate from initial message was like 10%. So like 1 in 10 would say yes, and the other 9 would either be like screw off or ignore, right? Because I wasn't posting a lot on my LinkedIn. As I started posting more and I started building an authority, my posts now regularly on LinkedIn. I've been very active on LinkedIn for the last 6 months, and it has grown. I have about 16,000 followers now on LinkedIn, and each of my posts probably get around 8 to 12,000 impressions per post.
That's good.
Now my success rate for initial message to booked calls is like 5 out of 10. It's like 50% acceptance rate right now. The companies that are coming on are getting larger too. So we're getting companies that are like $300 million. Not to say that your company's not doing amazing stuff. There's a lot of companies doing amazing stuff that are making 10 million, 50 million. But for an enterprise to start saying yes to us, we would have never had that in the first 10 episodes.
Right.
But LinkedIn authority matters a lot, because your LinkedIn profile is your personal brand. And if you're reaching out and you're asking for someone's time, especially in the enterprise level, branding is way more important, right? It's way harder to get the door open. So personal brand on LinkedIn is just so important. So it's good that I think you have the right strategies and the right approaches. And yeah, it's excited to have round two where we can actually dive in and see how things are going in a few months.
Yeah,
with you guys. Yeah. You're doing a bunch right now. Do you guys track your blended CPA, like how much it costs to acquire a customer? Oh no.
Sorry.
We had 40 minutes, Doug. It was 40.
Yes.
We were doing so good.
Yes, we do track it. I have no idea what it is. Well, sorry.
All right. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Oh God, I am really nervous about this. I'm gonna go way less this time.
Yeah, I dropped a little bit more there. Why did I say yes?
Oh God, I got a seed.
Oh, don't choose the seeds. Oh, runny nose.
My face is red. Holy smokes.
You can tell there's metabolisms out here.
Okay. Oh man.
I should have had like some saltines handy or something.
Yeah. All right. So we can talk about CPA.
Yeah. We risk. Yeah.
Okay. So you can't talk about CPA. Can you tell us? I have an idea of what the answer would be, but what's your best performing channel? You mentioned a few.
Yeah.
Events, digital marketing, so like some ads, ABM, content marketing. Which channel do you think is your best from a CPA perspective?
I would say content, to be honest, because we have, and it's been kind of cool as I've been here and I started to dig into things, seeing how much really good content we have. And my cat is not invited. How much content we really have, so good. We've got a good buyer's journey plan set up, and we're continuing to revise our content strategy. But we get a lot of inbound leads based on our content. Everything from whether it's a survey we did, or a white paper, or trainings we do, workshops, things like that. And I work with a couple of external content writers who put together some really good stuff. Content seems to be a really good channel for us because people share it. I did a byline article for a semantic white paper not too long ago, like a week ago, and people continue to reshare it and repost and recomment on this article I put out there. And we've had a couple of clicks, people coming in, hey, I want to learn more. I'm like, that's awesome. So, I think events are a good channel. Like digital marketing is a good channel, but content marketing, I think sometimes you see it more clearly because I'm clicking on that thing, or hey, because I read X, Y, and Z, I want to ask you a couple more questions. That's more visible. You go to an event and you might see the person again at an event 5 months later and they go, oh yeah. And then they come back to you. So it's a little, content marketing is also easier to track generally, gated or non-gated.
And where is the content? Which channel do you find the most success with when you're posting? And by content, I think you're meaning more video content.
No, I think everything. We do video content. We have not done enough video content. We're going to be doing more of those. The last time I was in Bulgaria, we actually recorded 4 videos with our product team. Just doing short talking head videos. Because I think video is, I have seen it to be consistently sticky and engaging. Webinars, we're going to be doing more webinars. But as far as, I think it's a toss-up between our digital marketing channel and LinkedIn as far as the kind of engagement activity we're getting. That seems to drive it most, pushing it out there. And also just having our salespeople sometimes just take it, plop it in an email and share it, having a follow-up conversation. That's also helping because now people go, oh, tell me more, and they come back to you with the question.
Yeah, we've seen, on my personal channel, I don't sell any services per se, but I am building community. And what I found is ever since I started posting about my community, I see you. Are you about to cry there, Doug?
No, I was
Are you gonna
recovering.
cry?
I was talking long enough that the fire didn't sink in, and now the fire is sinking in. So,
It is. Yeah. Um, if you can cry, I think we'll get like 15,000 views, like minimum. Um, just poke your eye. Yeah. I was doing a lot of community stuff before I started posting on LinkedIn, and it would be, a struggle getting 50, 70 people in a room or getting 50 people in a virtual room. Once I started posting and not even asking, I find that content on LinkedIn, you can't ask. If you ask, you're selling. That is me personally. Some people, this is a really hot take, but a lot of people say you got to ask. If you don't ask, you don't get. But LinkedIn content is more about supporting people and community. I find that is the use of LinkedIn. So when I started posting about my community stuff, and it's like just getting people together, we immediately started. We're doing an event tomorrow. Actually, we have a venue. It used to take us a month to book out an event with 60 people. We got this done in 3 or 4 days. It increased the amount of attention on our events by literally 10 times. And all that we're doing is just sharing. We're just sharing the purpose of the events, and also sharing who came to the events. That's it. And then if anyone wants to come, they message. We've been getting a lot of attention that way. And maybe that's something. Maybe that's, yeah. To your point, LinkedIn being one of your top 2 channels, I totally agree with that. I think not enough companies are utilizing LinkedIn in the right ways. So yeah, it's totally cool.
And some of the strategies, like when I first came on board, one of the things I immediately did was update our LinkedIn, the OntoText's LinkedIn profile to put it into more easy to understand, more clear terms. I also been harassing politely my sales team, change your profiles. Instead of saying account sales executive, tell me what you do. Unless you're looking for a job, which hopefully you're not, tell me what you do for me when I look at your profile, and build stuff in that talks about the company, build links, because you can actually link yourself back to, the OntoText's website, for example. All these little tweaks, and then using LinkedIn Sales Navigator, using LinkedIn Messages, looking at our subscribers and our followers. I mean, it's just, there's all these gold mines sitting there. And you talked about community. The other thing we're about to start doing is actually building a community. Our core product is called GraftDB. We want to create a GraftDB community that we help, we sponsor, we push it out there. It's not a selling one. We're not coming in and saying, hey, buy. We want to get a bunch of GraftDB, nerds, sorry, in a nice way, get together and start to share their ideas and best practices and things they've done, because that helps them out. And we listen and we learn. We don't sell. And to me, that's, I think LinkedIn is going to be a perfect channel for that, because again, you're sharing stuff that people want to know about and learn, and they can decide to join. And it's not a sales activity. It's a learning activity.
Yeah. You always hear the all-time favorite quote, like give some more and then take, right?
Yeah.
This is the best way. And when you run events where you just imagine you ran an event with 20 or 30 GraftDB, like hardcore fans, and you just let them network and talk about their business. Give them a floor to talk about what they're doing. 100%. Don't sell anything about GraftDB or what OntoText is doing. They're gonna know who you are anyways, and they're gonna be so thankful for what you have to offer. They might even reach back to you, or they reach back to you when they're ready. Yeah. And just keep giving until you're ready to take. Yeah. That has been my philosophy. I learned so much from building this podcast and building these communities. And Stack Overflow literally built their $2 billion business on community. Right. Community has been their number one asset, number one tool. You think about any other major companies. SAP has big. Obviously, they're a much bigger company, but when they started Salesforce, like when they had like Salesforce, for example, and all these other companies, it's all about community first. They do community first, and everything comes after. Right.
People buy from and respond to people. I mean, it's an overused statement. Good Lord, I'm not the only person that's ever said it, but if you feel like somebody is engaged and cares and is facilitating a good conversation, you buy into it. If they come up with hi, Doug, you may not know me, but I've got something to talk to you about. It's like, or you just turn, click and go away. But if I say,
Yeah.
I just want to learn from you and stop there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or I have an event where you can sell your stuff to other people, and I already have 100 people in a room. You just come and free drinks, whatever, done, right? Sign me up.
Well,
and that's like,
I responded to your, the invite for this initially, because when you reached out, it wasn't a case of anything you're trying to sell me. It was a chance for me to be part of something that is interesting to me, and to hear from other CMO type people. Like, that's selfishly, that's good for Doug. I get to learn more.
It's good for Doug. Yeah. And like, who doesn't love Doug? Everyone loves Doug, right? That's what we're, that's what we're here for. Duh. Doug. All right. So before we jump out, we got a few minutes. Let's learn a little bit more about you. So obviously we know that you're a CMO of OntoText's. You guys are doing some amazing, crazy things. What was like your background was interesting, because you've been in marketing for like a long time, 15-ish, 20 years. But you've been in so many different departments, but all kind of touching marketing and sales and I don't know what other areas, but like so many other. You were also in like product marketing and you're like doing so many different things. I also
ran an athletic study center. Back when I worked in the education field for 7 years before I came to business. So I've got a very bizarre background that makes no sense how I've ended up where I am sometimes.
It's crazy. When you look back in your career, like, what were some of the key things that allowed you to just, no matter which position you were in, you would always excel and you were always leveling up? Like, what are some of your traits about Doug that makes you so successful in your roles? I
think a constant sense of appreciation and, I guess, self amazement. And I'm not sure that's how I said it better, but I'll give it a very quick story. This is 20-ish years ago. I was in a company called UCCnet, which they were standardizing barcode information. And I was out to dinner with the CIO, I think, of Mattel Toys Company. And, I was batting above my weight at that point. I was like, holy crap. And
big company.
There was like a $300 bottle of wine, ridiculously expensive steak, and this nice meal, this nice restaurant. And he got up to go to the bathroom. I sat there and I'm like, holy crap, what am I doing here? Imposter syndrome all over the place. Came back, we had a great conversation. We ended up making the sale, not just because of me, but I was part of the process. And I remember that a couple of days later, I'm like, you had no idea what you were really doing there, but you went at it with the right attitude. And I decided, like, just enjoy the ride. And that's how I think I've been successful, is that not everything is going to go my way. I've had a lot of ups and a lot of downs. But I always just try to enjoy the ride and get the most out of it I can. I go back to learning. I mean, if I get bored in a job, if I stop learning, I start looking for another opportunity, because that means I'm just doing a job. I'm not enjoying the job. So I have this childlike enthusiasm to life in the last 15, 20 years that here's a new challenge. Either I'm going to take it on, either I'm going to be successful, or I'm going to fail. It's binary. And I want to enjoy success. So I'm going to take those little successes and enjoy it.
How often do you feel imposter syndrome nowadays? And what do you do about it when you feel it?
Much less than I used to. But it's still, and when I do, I just, and I'll make the parallel back to jiu-jitsu, because one of the things that the Brazilian jiu-jitsu teaches you is humility and how to survive in tough situations. And we talk a lot about it. It's becoming comfortable in uncomfortable situations. You got somebody who's trying to crush you, tap you out, choke you out, smother you, and either you tap, which is also fine, or you learn to survive and get to a better situation. And so when I feel like that imposter thing, I'm like, you've been in worse situations, Doug. You've had guys trying to choke you out, or I've kind of gotten to the point in my life where I look at where I am and I'm like, there's a reason I became a CMO. Not just because I wanted to, but because people believed in my skills and my abilities, and they continue to bring me back. So something's going right. And I'm never on the cocky side. I was cocky when I was a teenager. It was stupid. Now I'm more confident. Like, okay, I'm doing a lot of right things. I'm still learning every single day, though.
That's so interesting that the first thing you brought up was imposter syndrome and like pushing yourself into uncomfortable situations. I think anything that you want in life is on the other side of feeling uncomfortable. You got to get through that uncomfortable feeling to get anything you want in life. When early in my career, I was always comfortable all the time. That means you're not growing, right? Growth is uncomfortable. When you go to the gym, if you don't feel pain, you're not going to get bigger. You're going to stay where you're at, which is fine if you're happy with that. But if you want to grow and if you want to become a better version of Doug, better version of Simon constantly, you're going to want to put yourself in uncomfortable situations and overcome it.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Do you have mentors or people that you talk to when you're feeling the imposter syndrome to just kind of bounce idea and like, am I being dumb? Should I be feeling this? Do you have people in your life like that?
I've got, and at the risk of sounding cheesy, it's quite real. My wife is probably my best cheerleader, annoying person, pesterer. I don't know if a mentor is the right word, but she knows what I do and she understands it. She can explain it sometimes better than I can. But sometimes I'll come down, I'll talk to her like, okay, here's what's going on. And she'll either tell me I'm being an idiot or, hey, I'm doing the right thing, bounce idea. And she keeps me sane most of the time. But yeah, she is my best asset, I think, for bouncing things off of. I've got other people that I've worked with over the years. I had a guy that I worked for. He's a CMO like 3 times. He's worked for the CMO twice. Worked for him 3 different times. He was just that good of a guy to work with. Used to drive me nuts in the first 6 months working with him, but he made me a better person, a better work person. So he and I will text, we'll call every now and then. I'm like, hey, here's what's going on in my any suggestions, any ideas? What have you done in this situation? He's a good friend, but also a great mentor. And then I got people I've worked with, especially my last job that people will stay in touch with and just bounce ideas off of. I got one of the guys that used to work for me, still calls me boss when we talk. I'm like, dude, you don't work for me anymore. You're going to work for me in a year and a half. I'll get boss. I'm like, he mentors, I mentor him, excuse me. But I get ideas from him at the same time because he's a pretty sharp guy. So I think when you surround yourself with people who are smarter than you and better at what they do than you might be, you get better.
And people that can be honest to you.
Much preferred.
How many people? That's why they always say behind every successful man is a stronger woman or whatever, one of those lines. Yeah. Because who else is going to be as honest to you as your wife?
Yeah.
And especially if she understands what you're doing and she tells you straight up, Doug, that was dumb. Like doing that was not cool, or that was amazing. Yeah. You know that it's coming from it's the truth. It's the truth. It's like the ultimate third party bystander watching you is your partner, your life partner.
And a good example, I'm going to use an example because it'll help tie back to help explain knowledge graphs, by the way. We were talking on a drive one time. I was trying to articulate some of my ideas. And so I came from what was called the master data management world, which is where I used to be. And now in the knowledge graph space, I was she was asking about it. And she said, so here's an idea. Is master data management like the letters of the alphabet? And knowledge graphs is like a sentence because it makes sense of the letters. I went quiet. We're driving along. We went totally quiet. I'm like, did I say something dumb? I'm like, no. I'm like putting that in my brain. I'm like, damn, that's good.
That's amazing.
And she's not in the data management space, even vaguely, but she's listened to me prattle on about it for years. And she spit back, which is fundamentally a very easy sentence. I actually ended up incorporating that into a briefing document that I give to our teams when we go to events. But I would never have thought about that if I hadn't talked to somebody different who, pokes things a little different fashion. And to me, that's what's so valuable. I think I'm pretty good at what I do. I've been doing messaging and positioning for quite a long time. But anybody else can go, hey, have you looked at it this way? Or have you thought about these words? It's like,
mind blown.
Yeah.
Well, way to bring it full circle, Doug. That was an amazing conversation. Really enjoyed it.
Same, definitely.
Before we jump out, how much money do you make as a CMO?
More than I ever thought I'd make in my life.
Let's do one last shot before we jump out. Appreciate your time, man. Yep.
This has been
throw
fun.
the I'm gonna do a little bit. Like
Yeah, I
the
think
first
you
two.
should.
Oh, I keep saying that, but oh my god.
Right. Cheers.
Gosh.
Yeah, might have to pour off there.
All right, Doug.
Bad idea.
I'm gonna head straight to the washroom. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Simon. This has been
Thank
fun.
you so much. Yep, this has been so much fun. Appreciate your honesty on the show. We'll have to do round 2 when you get deeper into OntoText's, and let's hear about all the amazing growth that you guys have been having.
That'd be fun. Sounds good. Thank you.
Well, guys, that's it for another spicy episode of Marketing on Mars. I'm really not sure who got burned more, my taste buds or the guest taste buds. My mouth is on fire. Real talk though, if you're not already subscribed, what are you waiting for? Each episode I make is basically an unedited, raw dinner with some of the leading marketing voices. They tell us the truth or they take a shot of hot sauce. We're on almost every single platform: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and more. There's really no excuse. Until next time, Martians, keep it hot and keep it real.